Hi, this is Jeremy. In this video, we're going to work through the exercises that go with the Math Antics video, Angles and Degrees. Are you ready? Here we go. Our first problem is pretty simple. It asks, what's the size of this angle in degrees? Here's our angle, our point of intersection, and our two rays. And you can see from this angle by the square corner that's down at the intersection that this is what we call a right angle. The lines are perpendicular to one another, and a right angle, as we learned in the video lesson, always equals 90 degrees. Lots of times when you have to measure the size of an angle, you might need to use a protractor, like we also learned about in the video lesson. But in this case, an angle like this with the square corner you always know is 90 degrees, and that's important because in order to solve a lot of geometry problems, you'll need to know that a right angle always equals 90 degrees. Problem 2 also asks, what is the size of this angle in degrees? And here's our angle. You might wonder, oh, is this an angle? But you can see there's a point of intersection. It's formed by two rays, but they happen to go in exactly opposite directions. Here's our angle arc. And if you remember from our first video on angles, this is what we call a straight angle. A straight angle, and straight angles always have the measurement 180 degrees. That's just something that's important to memorize. So this angle is 180 degrees. Problem number 3 is a bit more interesting. It says find the unknown angle, and then it gives us this diagram here showing two angles, and then below it says angle A and angle B are complementary angles. Now let's stop there for just a minute. Complementary angles are something we learned about in the last video about angles. We learned that complementary angles are any two angles that combine to form a right angle. And in this video, we learned that a right angle always equals 90 degrees. That's really important in order to be able to solve this problem. So we know that a right angle, the total equals 90 degrees. Now let's read the rest of it. If angle A is 65 degrees, how big is angle B? Okay, so we have an unknown. It wants us to find angle B. That's our unknown angle. And it tells us that angle A is 65 degrees. So let's write that right here so we can visualize it. Now, we also, because we know about complementary angles, we know the total. And if we take the total amount, 90 degrees, and if we subtract the part that we do know here, A, 65, then whatever's left over by doing that must be angle B, because the two parts have to add up to the total. So let's subtract. 90 minus 65, borrow from the 9, we get an 8. 10 minus 5 would give us 5, and then 8 minus 6 gives us 2. So 25 degrees left over, that must be angle B. So, how big is angle B? The measure of angle B is 25 degrees. For problem number 4, we also need to find the unknown angle. Here's our diagram, and it says below it, angle A and angle B are supplementary angles. Okay, so remember from the last video, supplementary angles means angles that add together to give you 180 degrees. They combine to form a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. That's the important thing to know for this problem in order to get it right. And then the second part says, if angle A is 35 degrees, how big is angle B? So angle B is our unknown. That's what we're trying to figure out. And angle A, it told us in the problem, is 35 degrees. Okay. The same principle applies as the last problem. We know the total. Since these are supplementary angles, they form a straight angle. A straight angle is 180 degrees. So let's take that total, 180, and let's subtract the part that we know, which is 35 degrees. And if we subtract that, then whatever's left over has to be angle B. So we do our subtraction, borrow from the 8. This becomes 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 7 minus 3 is 4, and we bring our 1 down, so we have 145 degrees left over. That must be this angle right here. So angle B, the measure of angle B equals 145 degrees. The next problem looks a lot like the last one, and we again need to find the unknown angle. Here's our diagram, and it says if angle A is 128 degrees, how big is angle B? So B is our unknown angle, and angle A, it tells us, is 128 degrees. Okay, again, like last time, we need to figure out what the total might be here so that we can find our unknown. So the only difference between this and the last one is that this does form a straight angle, but you can see it's twisted. It relies on us to recognize that this is a straight line here, so this is a straight angle which equals 180 degrees. So that's going to be our total again for this problem. So let's write 180 up here, and we're going to subtract what we know. This time we know angle A, which is 128 degrees. So if we subtract those, we're going to end up with angle B. Let's do that. Borrow from the 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. 1 minus 1 is 0. So 52 degrees is what we have left over for B. So the measure of angle B equals 52 degrees. Okay, the last problem is a bit of a tricky one. It also wants us to find the unknown angle. It gives us a diagram here, and then it says below, if angle A is the same size as angle B, how big is angle A? Now the tricky part about this is it doesn't give us any numbers or values at all. It doesn't tell us how many degrees anything is, so we have to figure out what do we know about this problem that can help us to solve it. How will we be able to tell how big angle A is? Well, the first thing to realize is that angle A and angle B are forming a right angle here. And anytime we have a right angle, we know that that's going to equal 90 degrees. So there's our first bit of information that we need to solve this problem. We know that the total of A plus B must be 90 because they form a right angle. These are complementary angles. Okay, the second thing that we need to realize in order to solve this problem, it wants us to find A. We don't know what B or A are. It doesn't tell us the value of them, but it does tell us that they're the same size. It says that they're equal. A equals B. And in order for that to be true, they must each be exactly half of the total. In order for them to be the same, you'd have to take the total and divide it exactly in half, and then you'd get A and B. So that means that if we take our total, 90 degrees, and if we divide it in half, divide by 2, 2 goes into 9 4 times, because that would give us 8. Subtract, we get 10 left over, 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So exactly half of 90 degrees is 45 degrees. So both angle A and angle B must be 45 degrees. So how big is angle A? The measure of angle A equals 45 degrees.